ReliaQuest mental performance coach Derin McMains interviews top performers across multiple industries to unpack their mindset and their strategies that has helped them dominate in their arena so you can dominate in yours. Welcome to No Show Dogs, powered by ReliaQuest. Hey, welcome back to the No Show Dogs podcast, powered by ReliaQuest. Man, we've got a great episode for you today with arguably the greatest softball player to ever put on a Team USA uniform, Stacey Nuveman Deniz. She's a three-time Olympian, two-time gold medalist, NCAA champion, and this power-hitting catcher held the all-time NCAA record for most career home runs. She held it for 13 years before it was broken in 2015. And a quick side note, by the way, about that record, not only was she the NCAA all-time home run leader, she's still, to this day, the all-time record holder for most intentional walks. So just imagine how many more home runs she could have hit had all those teams not intentionally walked her. She's currently entering her fifth season as the head softball coach at San Diego State University after spending 13 seasons as an assistant coach. And since she's been at the helm, they've done nothing but win. Already a two-time Mountain West Conference Coach of the Year, her teams have won 5 out of 7 possible conference championships, including their school's first ever super regional appearance in 2023. And I'm telling you, you're going to love her energy. You're going to love how she thinks about performance, how she thinks about coaching and leadership. So many great takeaways in this one, from embracing the discomfort of evolving as a leader to investing in people first and performance second, or even how deep breathing and focal points have helped her be her best in the biggest moments on the biggest stages. But I want to give you one thing here right at the top before we jump into our conversation. You know, she shares a story from her playing days in the Olympics about a confrontation between her and her pitcher in the dugout in between innings. And you'll hear Stacey talk about how she felt in that moment. She was embarrassed. She was angry. But she chose to respond different than how she felt. Stacey said this. She said she didn't meet fire with fire because that's not what her pitcher needed in that moment. Leaders, here's the takeaway for you. It is not about you, and it is not about your feelings. It's about what's best for the team, always. It's about what does my teammate need from me right now so they can go out and be their best in this moment. The team's long-term mission always trumps your personal short-term emotions. It's not about you. It's not about how you feel or what you need. It's about what does the collective team and the individual teammates need from you to be successful. Now, let's jump into the conversation with softball legend and San Diego State's head coach, Stacey Nuveman Deniz. All right. Hey, Stacey, welcome to No Show Dogs.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, let's just talk about your Olympic playing career, because your resume, incredible. I just read it on the front side of this, but I want to talk a little bit about your playing career and specifically you as an Olympian, gold medalist in 2000 in Sydney, 2004 in Athens. You guys win the gold medal as well. And by the way, to our listeners, like that 2004 team is the equivalent to the 1992 Dream Team basketball team. They went on in that Olympics and outscored their opponents 51-1. By the way, before we came on here, Simon and I were talking back and forth, and we said, when did that one run get allowed? And it was the gold medal game.
It was, yeah, the gold
sixth inning too, right?
Almost got through without giving up a run, but I guess we'll take it.
Hey, before we jump into it though, I was just curious, as a competitor myself, I was thinking, you outscored your opponents 51-1. You almost go through clean sheet through the Olympics, which is unheard of. You guys win the gold medal, obviously. Was there any disappointment that you allowed one run, just as a competitor?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say there was. I think we were, if I recall, to be totally honest, I'm not even sure we were fully aware that we hadn't given up a run. It was one of those things that we were just so focused on winning and competing and the next opponent and preparing for all of that I don't know that was like a thing. I'm sure that was a media talking point, but it definitely wasn't something we were focused on. I think when it happened, it was like, oh, dang it. There went our unblemished record, but ultimately we just wanted to win. And, that team every team has their magical kind of components, but that team was really, really special. And just the leadership we had, the buy-in we had from, the fellowship, if you will, was amazing that year and that quadrennium. So it was really, and obviously winning, when you cap it off with a victory, it's pretty sweet, but it was a really cool group for sure.
Thank you for sharing that. Cause I think as listeners, it's right away, people are taken away of like, you guys didn't even know that until the end. Right. And it's just like, oh, we're just focused on winning and how can we win this game and put our best foot forward. And so, but I also mentioned you guys went back to the Olympics, obviously in 2008. I'm sure extremely disappointed. Maybe, I don't know. I'm curious, how was it winning the silver medal? Because research tells us, and you're going to be someone that's experienced this, research tells us that the bronze medalist is generally more excited than the silver medalist, because why? They're just
You
happy.
lose
Oh,
the silver medal. I mean, that's what I always say is
yeah,
I said, you kind of lose the silver, you get the silver
yeah,
after having a chance, the gold was right here and, it slipped away. So, and it sounds very like, almost elitist, like, oh, the silver medal, like pshaw, that's not good enough for us. And I think it being really honest, I mean, that's kind of my feeling about it is it's kind of still has a bad taste. And it was, my gosh, I don't even know. I'm not good at math. 2008 was a long time ago. But it
yeah,
still kind of stings a little bit just because we did have that opportunity to win a game and we didn't get it done. So yeah, am I happy? Am I proud of my silver medal? I sure am, but it's a secondary mention, right? Like you talk about the
sure.
two gold medals and, oh yeah, by the way, she also has a silver medal. And it's like, yeah. And that's kind of truthfully how I feel about it too. I'm proud of it, but I sure wish it was gold.
Sure, sure. Can you describe to us 3 Olympic Games? Just describe the atmosphere of walking into the opening ceremonies as an Olympian. And I'm sure maybe it changed from, experiencing 3 Olympic Games, but what is that experience like as an athlete, knowing you're walking into the opening ceremonies representing your country?
That's definitely one of the highlights for me was just that true unity you feel with all these athletes from other sports. And there's obviously athletes you recognize and you're the dream team basketball team is there and you're taking photos with LeBron and Michael Phelps is there and you're one of them and we're literally all in Team USA in that moment. And it doesn't matter what sport you play, it doesn't matter male female, it doesn't matter if you're a future champion or just happy to be there kind of thing. Everybody is united in the front and just walking into that stadium. And honestly, it wasn't like the American athletes got all kinds of cheers. I mean, in some ways, I feel like even in 2008, especially, we weren't really that loved. And that was different, right? Because I felt like we
Sure.
got more positive feedback in the first couple of go arounds. But I honestly, being in the village, staying in the village, going to the opening ceremonies, we were fortunate. In 2000, I'm trying to remember, 2000, we went to the opening ceremonies. In 2004, we went to the ceremony. And then 2008, we played the next day. So we didn't actually get to march and do the full, we like dressed, got on the little outfits and took pictures with everybody. And then those athletes left and we stayed back because it's a long day. It's a long event, a lot of time on your feet. So we just as a team decided that we wanted to stay back and not do it in that 2008 run. But, and I'll be honest, like as we look at, 2028, that's coming up here is the next one. And softball is going to be back in, which is awesome. The LA Games, but they're playing softball in Oklahoma. I don't know if you knew that,
Oh,
but
wow. I did not know
the
that.
softball event is going to take place in the USA Hall of Fame Stadium, which is where the Women's College World Series is played.
Got it.
And it's a venue thing. It's they didn't have the proper venue apparently in Southern California, which is hard for me to understand because I'm like, this is where softball's hotbed is. How can we not figure out a place to put softball? But it kind of bums me out for those athletes that that won't get, I'm guessing they won't get that Olympic opening ceremony experience. And that really makes me sad because I do think that, the pride that you feel being an American, wearing the USA on your chest, representing USA softball is awesome, but representing the whole country and being at that event it's a really big deal. And it makes me sad that they'll miss out on that. And I'm guessing, maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am, but they won't be in the village. They're staying somewhere in Oklahoma City. That bums me out just for them because I was fortunate. I got that opportunity.
Sure.
I got that experience. I like to say that I had a once in a lifetime experience and I got to do it 3 times. I feel very lucky that I came through just at the right time in the perfect sweet spot of Olympic softball and had 3 very unique, very rewarding and distinctive experiences and ones that obviously I'll never forget.
That's great. Before we talk about you as a catcher, just one more question about really the 2004 team, because a lot of us aren't going to probably be a part of a team that is that dominant in our lives, right? And so I'm curious, what was the mindset going into the Olympics? Like, did you guys know that? Did you know you were going to win? And was it a thing of just like by how many, or was it like, hey, like, I'm just curious, like, what was the thought process going into that
Yeah, I
Olympics?
mean, we knew we were a good team. Obviously, we'd won a lot of games going into the Olympics on our tour. We had veterans that were a couple time gold medalists already from 96 and 2000. We had some really great young talent that was infused as well. And I think to me that what separated that team, and again, I don't think you could really predict it until it happened, was the way that we were aligned as a team from the very top, from Lisa Fernandez leading the charge to the number 15 player that maybe was more of a role player type situation in that event, was really the best team I've truly, of all the teams I've ever been on. The alignment from the top to all the way through 1 through 15 was spot on. We had great leadership. Lisa Fernandez, Lori Harrigan was another really big team leader. Not the biggest name on the team, not the biggest, most prominent pitcher on the staff, but did her job, but also really understood the importance of how to bring a team together and get everybody rowing the boat in the same direction. And we did that at a very high level. And I think that it ultimately paid off in such a magical way that I don't know that we could have known that that's how it was going to go. The preparations were outstanding, and I think it set us up for success. But I think just the way that we were connected, our head coach had gone through a really horrible tragedy. His wife passed away while we were on tour in the airport, while we were all there. And so this was like maybe a month before the games. So late in the summer, late in the process. And so he was very much like in a very fragile state. And I think that as a group, as a group of players, it was like, he's still there for us. We know he's there for us, and his heart's here, but he's got all these other things going on in his life. And so I think that in some ways also like strengthened the bonds. It was like, okay, we're playing for something much bigger than ourselves. You're already playing for something much bigger than yourself when you're in an Olympic uniform. But I think in that case, there was even a additional really powerful layer of connection and empathy that served as fuel, and just put us on another level. And I think it all just came together at the right time.
Wow. Yeah, that must have been, oh man, that must have been extremely difficult. And it does though highlight just probably how great a leadership you guys did have from the players. Also in a weird way, how suffering and tragedy can bring teams together. And it does also provides a different type of perspective that maybe gives you more freedom to go compete. Cause hey, it is just a game, as important as it is and how much we want to win. It is just a game. And so that's incredible. I want to talk about you a little bit as a catcher. And when I think about a catcher, I mean, come from the world of baseball, you're in softball, same. I think about the catcher is as important, if not more important than the pitcher, because, and you're
Don't
like,
tell
hey,
the pitchers that. They don't want to hear that.
I know, but you know this. And so the catcher and the pitcher are the only two positions on the field where the whole team's watching them perform, right? And we can't see what the infielders are doing pre-pitch, not until the ball's being hit. Can't see what the outfielders doing, but I can sure as heck watch what Stacey's doing behind the dish. And I know if Stacey's locked in or not. And so that's why I think it's so important that from an attitude, from a core value, from just a leadership perspective, the catcher and the pitcher, those two, because we're all watching them, like they got to be so just in step and locked in, right? And so for you, essentially, as the quarterback, the field general of the team, you're calling pitches, you're reading hitters, and you're managing the pitcher's essentially mindset and mood from time to time, right? All in these high pressure moments, all eyes on you. Think about you win a national championship, UCLA, couple gold medals. So you playing in these high pressure games. Business kind of the same in regards to high stakes environment. All eyes are on the leader, and decisions have to be made in real time that are going to affect the output. And so I'm curious, how did you slow the game down? How did you slow the game down in those moments to make the best decisions you could make and be the leader that your team needed you to be to help you win a game?
Right. So I was someone that put a big emphasis on my mental game. I was fortunate at UCLA to be introduced to and work with a sports psychologist by the name of Ken Ravizza.
The best.
So Ken Ravizza is like the godfather of, I feel like, baseball, softball, sports psych. And so at UCLA, he worked with our team, and then I developed a relationship with him. And then as I graduated and I continued to play with Team USA, Ken was in my back pocket. I mean, I can remember literally driving from, being graduated from school, living an hour and a half away and making a drive to his home in Redondo Beach. And he had this almost like a basement, which is kind of funny for SoCal because his house was on a hill. So you'd go down these steps and there was this little office down there in the bottom. It was beautiful. There was, I don't know if you could see the ocean, but it was just, the weather was tremendous and it was, near the beach, ocean breeze, whatever. And I remember spending time with him on my own, spending my own money to get there to just, I guess, tighten up my mental game. I was big on breathing, my breathing process. I was big on focal points, writing, a lot of journaling, a lot of self-reflection. And so I really, I worked hard because it was, by nature, I'm an overthinker, and I think that's very common, right? A lot of athletes are, especially the really high level ones, because they know more than they maybe wish they did, right? Like I was always like, God, can I just get dumb? Let me just get dumb right now because I don't want to know. I don't want to know what's at stake here. I just want to go out there and compete. And so I worked hard to develop that. And I wasn't perfect at it for sure, but it was something that I took pride in, and I spent time developing that muscle, if you will, so that when the game was big and the moment was huge and the pressure was high, I think one of my greatest strengths was that I was very even. And I would say that's translated in my coaching career as well, that, I have moments where I get passionate and the umpires hear me and hear what I have to say. And, my team feels that passion and that energy, but generally speaking, I don't operate at a high level. I'm much more measured. And I think that served me well. I can remember an instance, and I won't say who, but we're in the Olympics and we come and we're in a big game, and the pitcher is not getting a pitch on the corner that she thinks she should be getting. And she comes in the dugout and absolutely lights me up and is like, "You've got to get that pitch. That's BS." There's some choice words in there. "You've got to get that pitch for me. That has to be a strike. That corner, we're not getting that corner." Da, da, da. And for a lot of people, it'd have been like, hold on a minute. What about you? How about you do your job and put it over the plate? Give me a strike that I can work with. My response could have been defensive, like, whoa, you're screaming at me in the dugout. No way, I'm not taking that. But I just was like, I got you. Okay, I'm going to keep working. And I didn't respond or react, or I didn't meet her fire with fire. I just met her with, okay, all right, I hear you. I got you. I'm going to figure it out. Inside, I was embarrassed, pissed off, a little bit of offended, whoa. I mean, I think I'm doing my best to give me a break. But that's not what she needed in that moment. And to be honest, I don't even remember what happened after that. I think it was fine. I think she was just having a moment of a little outburst of energy or of emotion. But I feel like that's a position for sure where the more you can be, you might be a sounding board. You also might have to infuse give a little energy if it's a pitcher that's maybe a little bit lower energy type personality. But again, my style was much more measured, much more, I always wanted to be reliable. I wanted, whether it was the pitchers, whether it was the rest of the team, to know that I was steady. I was never going to get caught up in the moment. And did I ever get caught up in the moment? Sure. Right. But you wouldn't have known it. you wouldn't have known it. Under the surface, there might've been, but on the surface, I wanted them to believe that I had my shit together. Excuse my French, but I wanted them to believe that I had it together and that I was in control of myself emotionally. And I think that served me well. And I think it continues to serve me well in the coaching profession as well.
That's great. I know in 2023, I was doing some consulting work with the Diamondbacks and talk about steadiness. Like Evan Longoria was our third baseman, and we had such a young team, such an exciting, fun team. But the steadiness that he brought to the team was just, you could feel it when you were there. Hard for fans to really know, but for someone like you who's been in a lot of clubhouses, just the importance of having that steady teammate that when stuff's hitting the fan, you look over there and that person's unfazed and you're like, oh, we'll be all right.
We're good.
We'll be all right.
Good.
We got Stacey, we got Longo. We're going to be okay. So I love it. One more question about the Olympics, and then I want to jump into coaching. You alluded to it a little bit. Is there a particular Olympic moment? This could be a game. It could be in a bat. Shoot, it could even be a conversation like you just mentioned in the dugout. But when you reflect on your time as an Olympian and you think back to that moment, is there something that just gives you like chills even to this day when you still think about it?
Well, there's a few that I can think of, but one that just comes to mind. So the 2000 Olympics, okay, so the first go around, I was the youngest player on the team. And it was a pretty veteran group. There was, majority of the players on the team had been on the 96 team. And there was a few of us that were new to that 2000 squad. And so heading into the Olympics, we had won like 150 games or something in a row, literally had not lost. Went on the entire tour, every international event, we just boom, 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 just run through it. So we get to Sydney and we play, at that time, you played everybody once. So it was an 8-team tournament. So you have 8 kind of round robin essentially, and then it goes into the medal rounds. So we won the first couple games and then we lost a game. And I don't remember in what order, but we lost to China, Japan, and Australia. And again, I don't remember who was first, but we lost a game. Whoa. Okay, we lost a game. Okay, no big deal. Tomorrow. Boom, tomorrow. Lost again. Boom. 3 in a row. So we had lost 3 in a row. We had one remaining round robin game that if we didn't win, if we lost that 4th game, we were out. There was no medal, period. We weren't even going to make it to the medal round. We played like Puerto Rico or something. So we win that game, we get into the medal round. And we were the 4th seed. So we had to like battle our way through. Anyways, long story short, extra inning ball game. It starts to rain. It was kind of like there was a lot of adversity. And I hit a walk-off home run to win the game. And to get us to, I think it was maybe to the gold medal game. I don't remember all the details, but just the feeling of like back against the wall. And we had some great, amazing leaders in that moment step up and just like collectively kind of help us gather ourselves. And just like, that was my first like international big moment, this big walk-off home run to win the game. That was incredibly special. We went on to win the gold medal. We won the next couple of games and got the gold medal. But I think just facing some adversity when you're rolling and things are going well, it's not that hard, but when it gets hard, how do you respond to the hard? And I think as a team, we figured it out. And for me, that was really cool to just come up clutch in that moment for our team.
For sure. I can only imagine. I think a walk-off homer is probably the best moment in sport because you just ended the game, but you get to take the victory lap, right?
True.
And so, it's great.
A buzzer beater is like you make the shot, but then it's just like pandemonium.
Yeah, and everybody tackles you.
Yeah, that's true. But you don't walk off. You still got to get around, and you got the arm pumps and the all that.
Yeah, all the stuff, and they're waiting for you at home plate. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love that, and I think that was an extra inning 3-run walk-off homer. Like I think I was looking at that against China in 2000.
It was against China.
Yeah, extra inning. Yeah, in the medal rounds. Yeah, so incredible. So let's talk about you as a coach now. You go from playing to coaching.
Right.
Just right away. Like, what are some of the hardest adjustments that you had to make from going from cleats in the dirt behind the dish to now tennis shoes in a dugout?
Yeah. So I literally I accepted my first college coaching job from my Olympic Village dorm room in 2008. So I accepted the job at San Diego State as an assistant coach from my dorm room in China. So I came home, had about a month, and then it was like, all right, here we go. Coaching career, activate. And I think for me, the hardest transition was, and I say this with no disrespect to the athletes that I coached, but, I just walked off an Olympic stage where I'm surrounded by the best in the world, not just my teammates, but our opponents, our coaches, all of it. Like these were the best of the best. And you come into this environment where you've got some good athletes, don't get me wrong, but they're not the best in the world. And the adjustments that they need to make are more significant. Their body awareness maybe isn't as good. Their self-awareness isn't as good. I'm coming from an environment where, all right, hey, Nuvi, your hands a little bit, or get a little high, maybe drop, boom, done, correction made, boom, adjustment made, boom, 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 on to the next. You come here and it's like, okay, your hands are a little high. Okay, your hands are still a little bit high. Okay, maybe bring your hands down. Like trying to find a way. How do I communicate this to make it stick, to make them respond and give me that adjustment that I'm looking for? So I think it was just having to like learn how to meet the athlete where they are. And that has proven to be continually the challenge. Every single year you get a new crop of athletes. You have some returners that have some perspective and understand you and you understand them, but a whole new group every year. Okay, how am I going to reach this athlete? How am I going to get her to, first and foremost, trust me and buy in? Secondly, how am I going to make those adjustments in a way, communicate those adjustments in a way that's going to feel good to her, she's going to accept, she's going to be able to do? So I think it's just, recognizing that athletes are different. Every one of them is different. They hear differently, they see differently, they feel differently. And I think now as sport performance is maturing and data and analytics are fully into softball in a way that they've been in baseball for a while now, but they're now in our sport in a much more powerful and impactful way, we have to be even smarter. We have to continue to bring that in too. It's not just mechanics, but it's the analytical side of things. It's the metrics, it's the matchups, it's the strategy. So I think coaching, the game is developing in a really, really cool way, a very advanced and sophisticated way. And just, I think the challenge for us as coaches is to stay on top of that, is to, stay true to who you are, to your core values and to your center of how you coach, how you communicate, how you operate, but also being willing to like bring this in and recognize this as helpful. And I think that some older coaches are doing a good job of that. Some are doing a great job of that. But if you're not willing to adjust as the game changes, then I think it leaves you behind. So I think for me, it's been a continual educational piece. And I'm very open. I'm very open to like feedback, to learning new things. Like I by no means have figured out the coaching game. I've got my system, I've got my routines, I've got my core values, but ultimately like adapt or die, right? Sure. Adapt or die. And it's no different in sport. And so I'm very open to new technologies, to new ways of seeing the game. And I don't know how many people that have been around the game as long as I have are saying that. Because a lot of them, it's like, well, this is how I do things and it works and we're going to stick with it. And I'm not saying I have to like reinvent the wheel every year, but I do think there's influencing how we operate and just like little tweaks that just continue to keep us fresh and relevant as a program and as a culture, really.
No Show Dogs is brought to you by ReliaQuest, the global leader in AI cybersecurity. ReliaQuest helps enterprise cybersecurity teams contain threats in minutes with its agentic AI security operations platform, Gray Matter. ReliaQuest makes security possible for the most trusted enterprise brands in the world. Learn more at ReliaQuest.com. That's great. A couple things you brought up that I just want to highlight is, one, you mentioned body awareness and how just different it is from an Olympic athlete, professional athlete versus a young, maybe freshman or, amateur athlete, right? Or maybe even younger. And I can tell you, for those that are in sport, that is 100% so true. It's like, and it's all about how quickly you can make the adjustment, right? And so how much body awareness you have, so you can like, oh yeah, I do feel my front side leaking, or I do feel my, I'm not getting off my backside, whatever it might be. Like the best athletes in the world can feel it right away and make that adjustment. Sometimes within the at bat, right? Those are the best in the world do that, right? And when I think about business leaders, obviously maybe not body awareness, but it is situational awareness. It's being able to read tone and read body language in a meeting. And maybe you miss it the first time, but those superstars are the ones that go, hey, I got it. I picked it up. And in the next meeting, in the next one-on-one, in the next customer call, like they've already made the adjustment. And again, it's just kind of fascinating to hear you talk about that, because that's kind of where my mind went.
Well, I'll say this too, just to piggyback on that. I think when I think about like the coach and the leader that I am today versus when I first 2008, right? Fall of 2008, it's not even close. And I was a pretty good leader back then, right? I had some pretty good perspective and I was mature and I was a good communicator and all of that. But I think to me, part of being in this position, the challenge and also the gift of it is that you are in the people business. Whether you're coaching athletes, whether you're leading a board meeting, whether you're a salesperson going out in front of folks and trying to sell your product. Ultimately, it is the people. And the hardest and also most, probably most challenging, but also very rewarding, and maybe the most rewarding part of what I've done and what I've learned in coaching as a head coach, especially, is the people I surround myself with are everything. And it can be very hard to manage that because you're managing strong personalities, you're managing achievers, you're managing people that in some cases want to be in the seat you're in, right? And maybe not your actual seat, but they want to do what you're doing. And I take it as a compliment that my most recent 2 top assistants are now head coaches. And I've been head coach for 4 years. So this is my 5th year as a head coach, and I've already lost two top assistants to head coaching positions. That's, I mean, nobody likes hiring, right? Like that sucks. Right. And I think that's a universal truth, right? Like the hiring process is no fun for anybody, but I look at it as it's kind of a badge of honor. It's like, okay, if I am preparing, in my way, preparing my assistant coaches to go on and be their own head coaches, we're doing something right. We're putting them in a position to have autonomy, to have ownership, to really like own their area that they have leadership of in our program, and allow just to grow in that way. And so the people side of it is like, I'll say this too. I'm a sports psychologist. I'm a field maintenance person. I'm an HR manager, and I'm a softball coach. It's all of those things. And I don't think that's unique to me or sport, head college coach. I think that's CEOs, right? Like you're doing so much more than just businessing, right? You're doing a lot of other things and wearing a lot of other hats. And, and I think that's why sport and business do have a connection in a lot of ways, because they are very parallel and they're performance. We are a performance organization, period, end of story, similar to a business. Now, what the metric is different, but ultimately, if I'm not winning games or not winning enough games, I might be looking for a new job. And that's part of what comes with the territory. And I'm okay with that.
So good. You mentioned how much you've grown as a coach, and we all know coaching is just as much about managing personalities, managing mindset. You even mentioned your sports psychologist right on top of this. And it's just as much about that as it is teaching fundamentals. I'm just curious, like a couple things that you feel like you've grown the most in as a head coach now that has made you the coach that you are today and helped you bring the best out of the student athletes that you get to coach.
Well, I'll say this, as an assistant coach, every decision is very clear. The position, when you're sitting in an assistant coach chair, it's easy. You do this is the conversation you have, this is the decision you make. It looks very simple until you're the one that has to make it, until you're the one that has to sit down with the student athlete and cut them from your roster, or have the hard conversation, or go in, frankly, and ask for a raise. Sell yourself. That's hard to do. Telling a coach that, they're going to change roles and they're not going to do this anymore and they're going to do that. And that's going to be a hard lesson a hard message for them to hear. The hard decisions are hard. And that is something that I've gotten more comfortable with. It just comes with what it takes. And being honest, being authentic, being genuine, direct, right? Not beating around the bush. Let's not have a chat about it. Let's just come in and sit down and say what needs to be said. The hard stuff, I feel like that's an area that, I'm not perfect, but I think, I used to, oh man, I didn't sleep for 3 nights before, having to have those hard conversations. And then I didn't sleep for 3 nights after because I felt guilty and I felt bad and I felt all these things. And it's just, I got to own the decision and I've got to feel good. No, I'm the type of person that I try really hard not to make fast decisions in terms of, like, sometimes you have to, but the big ones, the important ones, the hard ones, like let me sit with it. Let me just, and when I can kind of wrap my head around it, then it's not so hard. And ultimately, I can put my head on the pillow knowing that what the decision was made for the betterment of the program. It's not personal. It feels personal. It's not personal. I know it's not personal. That person may not agree with me because it's them, but I just feel like the integrity that's there and the intentional approach has been something I've had to develop. And I think get comfortable with being uncomfortable in those, to use our good friend, Ken Revise's quote, right? Get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think in the leadership role, some people are more wired that way. I'm not wired that way. Like having those hard conversations has been hard. And I think that I've gotten much better and just more confident in my ability to deliver the news the way it needs to be delivered and not have it be emotional as much as possible. And so I think that's an area, and that serves in the personnel department with hiring and such with coaches. It serves in roster management. It serves in recruiting. Sometimes we have to tell a recruit, we were recruiting you, but we're no longer recruiting you. And I'm sorry. Or we had an offer, but something has changed and now the offer has changed. And that's a hard message to send a family that's, financially committed to what they need the financial support, whatever it might be. So I think that's an area that I've grown a lot in my short head coaching career.
That's great. I want to talk just one more about your coaching, and then I want to talk a little bit about your San Diego State program a little bit before we wrap up here. You mentioned giving tough feedback to student athletes or shoot, maybe assistant coaches. I'm curious, how do you give feedback in a way that really pushes players forward or pushes your staff forward without breaking their confidence?
Yeah. So I think one of our, and I'm going to segue into the San Diego State softball because I think you'll hear just a little bit about our process, but I say this all the time. It's a broken record for my players and the coaches is the magic of our program happens in the clubhouse. And then it translates to magic on the softball field. So what I mean by that is the amount of time and investment of resources and energy we put into building relationships, communication, leadership development. Starting from the first week of school, we have weekly check-ins where there's a group of athletes paired up with a coach and it rotates. So week 1, group 1 is with Coach Nuvi. Week 2, they're with Coach Curley. Week 3, where they're with Coach Grace, and they work their way through the process. So I'm spending 20 to 30 minutes weekly. And it's the intention of that is just to create some connection, because otherwise all we do is we see them on the field. We see them in the weight room. We see them conditioning on the turf field that I'm sitting and looking in my window, and, athletes are out there, running their sprints. I want it to be more the human side. Like, how are you? How are you adjusting? If you're a freshman, if you're a transfer, what's it been like? How are you feeling about things? How's school? How's your grandpa? I think he might be sick. How's your roommate? Are you guys getting along? And I learn a lot about, and so much more behind the curtain, so to speak, of what's going on in their lives. And I really do think that me understanding that gives me a perspective that, okay, so then we go out on the field and this girl is just, crap in the bed. I might say, oh yeah, but I happen to know that her grandfather passed away 2 weeks ago and she's having a hard time. And I think that empathy doesn't give everybody excuses, but it gives perspective. And it might be like, hey, a hand on the shoulder is what they need from me right now. She doesn't need me to get on her butt about the bad throws that she's making. She needs me to pull her out and just be like, hey, we got you. It's okay. And I don't know if that's a female thing, if females respond to that, but I'm telling you, when they know you care about them, they will run through a wall for you. And that has to come first. It can't be they're going to run through a wall for me and then they know that I care about them. They will go through the wall for us because they know that we are people first. We are a people first program, and the human comes first before even the student. The human, the student, and then it's the athlete. And in that order. And I think that and it's time. Trust me, there are days where I'm like, oh my gosh, the last thing I need is 2 hours of check-in meetings because I got about 7,000 other things I need to be doing. But I do feel like that investment of time that us coaches put into just making those connections, the human connections with our players, translates so much to how we operate and how we compete, not even in the start of the season, but at the end of the season. I always, we talk a lot about everything we're doing is a build up to not February, definitely not October. There's no championships being handed out in October, but I want us to be dialed in April. When we get conference play, let's go through all of the crap. Let's have all the drama. Because every year there's some drama. Every single year, never fails. Something, right? Let's hit those skids early on. so that when we get into, we've gone through that, we're battled, we're that beautiful steak that's been tenderized, right? Like it's just been beat the crap out of.
Yeah.
We come in and we're ready to just go play softball. And so our process and my process, in terms of the communication I think that's our signature, honestly. I think we recruit really well. I think we do a good job of creating a really special environment, but ultimately the women that are here that choose us are choosing to be a part of something that is going to be transformational, not just come in and win championships. That's awesome. But like, it's the people, it's the lessons, it's the way they grow. The greatest thing for me is to sit back and watch a player that's gone through this program and see them come in maybe as seniors, right? Like we've got some players on our team that have been here since freshman year and they're now seniors. And to watch them find their voice, to watch them hold people accountable on the field or in the clubhouse or whatever. My mom heart just sings with joy because it's like, okay, like we've raised these women now. It's because it's kind of like it's kind of what you do, right? You raise them in your program and now they're shining and they're standing up in front of a group of people expressing. And I'm like, if you had the thought of this young lady doing this 4 years ago, no way would she have been up here doing this. And that's not me. That's all of us. That's the collective. We call ourselves a tribe. That's the collective tribe influence on that woman, that young woman who has come and just grown and found her voice and found her confidence. And I talk about that stuff way more. That I feel like that stuff is, and then it goes on the softball field because that same player now has the bat in her hand in a big moment. And there's a panache that you can't teach or fake. And there's just a different air that she carries when she walks in the box after having kind of gone through that transformation. And that's where I love to just sit back, twiddle my thumbs on the bench and just be like, okay, you go play, go do you and watch the good stuff happen. And that's the most fun thing I get to do is watch them go out and just shine.
That's so good. By the way, first time I think I've heard the word panache used in almost 3 years of No Show Dogs. So way to go.
All right. I brought a new word to the podcast.
Let's go. I actually have to go look it up now. I'm like, I ain't that smart. That's why I'm like, oh, it sounds like an ice cream flavor, but I'm sure it's not, So
watch, I'm probably saying it wrong. It's probably pronounced some different kind of way.
I don't know. I know what you're talking about though. And it's, I'll tell you what's cool. What just came out there that I heard, I mean, a lot of great things around People First program connection. But I love when you talked about getting to know the player and then, maybe they needed a pat on the back or a hand on the shoulder. And then you said, and just, hey, I got you. And then it referenced back and it made me think of you were sharing the story of the pitcher in the Olympics that got it, that was giving it to you pretty good in the dugout. And you said the same thing, I got you. And it made me think like, wow, like Stacey's such a great teammate, right? I mean, just like whether you're a head coach, assistant coach, it's like just about the people around you. And so it's just kind of cool to hear that come up in two different instances. I thought was really neat.
That's cool. Well, and I think I said this too, is that, that moment in the dugout in whatever, I don't even remember what Olympics it was, that is, I think that's one of the keys to successful and effective leadership is like, what does the moment require? Because the moment, and again, I go back to now with my team, that moment might have required my hand on her shoulder and telling her that I got her. In another moment, she needs my foot in her backside saying, hey, we need you to be better. We need you to step up. We need you to change your body language. You've got it. This is not good enough. You're not meeting the standard. And again, I go back to, if I don't do the hand on the shoulder, then I don't think I get the response in the foot in the butt that I want, because she knows that ultimately, like, I'm right. Now she needs me to kick her in the butt. Over here, she needs me to love her up. It's the delicate dance of that balance. And again, I don't always get it right. Sometimes I wish I would have been a little firmer, and sometimes I wish I would have been a little more gentle. And that's also leadership 101, right? Is like, you're going to make mistakes. And, and I think it's important for my players. I always I'm very honest and very real. Like when I mess up, I come back around. I say, if I had a do-over, I'd love to have a do-over on that conversation, because I don't think I handled that very well. Here's how I'd like to reframe it. And I start over again. And I think that them seeing me be humble and have enough humility to say, hey, I messed that up. I could have done that better. That also, I think, some people would say that makes me weak. I think that actually makes me even stronger. It makes me more human. And the respect just grows when I think you can show that you're not perfect either. And I'd like to handle that differently. And the next go around, and next time you've got my word that I will.
No doubt. That's well put. I know we're getting up towards the end of it, and we got to get to our last question that we ask every guest here on the No Show Dogs podcast. And the one we always end with is simply this one. And we've covered a lot of it. So I think something's going to come up already that we've kind of talked about, but we got to ask the question. So reflecting on your career, reflecting on the things you've done as both player and coach, and you're still in the middle of coaching, obviously, but what do you think have been some of the things that you've been willing to do that you think probably others haven't, that has helped you have the success you've had up to this point?
In my coaching, for sure. And we just kind of touched on it. So it'll maybe be a little bit of a repeat, but I think my willingness to and my self-awareness and my willingness to say, I can do it better. There is a better way. And it's not that I'm always searching for the latest and greatest. It's not that. It's just, I think there's a realness to how I operate as a leader, as a coach, as a mentor, in that I don't have all the answers. Let's search together for the answers, but also like make me better, make me a better coach. And so, it kind of reminds me, years ago, when I was an assistant coach at San Diego State, I was on a hiring committee. A quick story. I was on a hiring committee, and there was a gentleman from across campus. He was like some dean of the education department or something like that. He was an academic guy, was on the search committee. And I didn't know this guy, never met him before. And he was kind of in charge of the group. And we were hiring our women's volleyball coach. It was a pretty big hire, pretty big job. And he says, okay, the first question we have to ask ourselves as a committee. And he says, I've done hundreds of search committees. I've hired hundreds of employees. He says, the first question you have to ask yourself is, do you want a good employee who you think you're going to have for a long time? This person's going to come in and they're going to be with you for 10 years. Or do you want an outstanding employee, but you know that they might only be here for a couple of years? What do you want? What do you want to hire? And we didn't answer it out loud, but I answered that in my head, and it made me think when I'm a head coach, because obviously stability is important, right? Like having stability, having coaches. If you have a staff that's together for a long time, that can be really powerful. But I said, in my mind, I'm like, I want great. I want awesome. I want shooting stars that we're going to capture in a bottle. And if we can only get them for 2 years, then we only get them for 2 years. But that's how we elevate our program. Because to me, good for 10 years, right? 10 years, not that. I mean, I've been here for 17 years, so I guess you could argue that but I think you've got to be careful, because longevity like that can sometimes get complacent, can sometimes get stagnant, can start to get into this is how we've always done things. I want people to come in and challenge me. Come in and show me something that I don't know. Teach me something that I don't know. Give me a new way of looking at things. Give me a new way to process. How do we value recruits? Do you have a system that we can learn from? How do you organize offensive practice? Maybe there's a better way of doing it. So that has been my North Star in the sense of like hiring people, and just, I want to be around great people. And I would almost say, and again, this is not a popular opinion, but like, even when it comes to recruiting, if I can only get a rock star player and I know that they're probably going to transfer if they do really well, I'll take them. Now, do I want them to leave? Hell no. Do I hope they leave? No. Do I want them to be for 2 years and move on? No, I don't. But if that's what it's going to take, I'll take it. And it's not personal to me. It's okay. If you look at this as a stepping stone for you to, okay, fine, come in and win us some championships. Come in and make us better. And then we will be better. And maybe, just maybe, you'll get so attached to the culture that you won't want to leave. But you're going to make us better in the meantime. And I think that is not, I don't think there's a lot of head coaches talking like that. So you talk about what am I willing to do? I'm willing to take my ego out of it and just be about the program and be about how can I make us better? And does, when I get the call from the pitcher that's hit the portal, does that hit in the gut? Yes, it does. But it's just short term. It's just a little punch in the gut. And then we move on and we figure out what we're going to do, how we're going to adjust to what our new reality is. And I think that's probably more rare than common in the coaching world.
Sure. That's so good, Stacey. I'm thinking right now of the business leaders and of our audience that's listening to this. They're going to go, how do I find Stacey? Like, where is she? So where can people come follow you, find you, learn more about you?
Yeah. Well, obviously come to San Diego. If you're in San Diego, come out. We have open practices anytime. My email is very accessible on the website. I'd love to hear from anybody that listens to this and is maybe has follow-up questions or wants to chat, come out to practice. I've got my obligatory social media. I'm not super great on the social media side of things, but I've got my Instagram and I'm old. So I also have Facebook because this is how old people keep in touch. But
cool.
Twitter, all those things, or X, I guess it is now. Yeah. But ultimately, San Diego's where it's at. So I'm here and I like to be accessible and available. So anytime I would love to hear from anybody that has questions or, was moved maybe by the podcast.
Sure. Stacey, thank you so much. Really, just thank you so much for taking time, especially hearing you talk about, you can see the team down there running sprints through your window.
Literally, it's not my team. It's I think like the tennis team is down here. I could see them
I got you.
Getting their reps in.
I got you. Thank you so much for taking the time. And just to our listeners, like, be sure to subscribe if you love stuff like this, because we're going to continue to bring you strategies from some of the best in the sports arena so you can go dominate in your arena. Stacey, go out, make it a great today.
Thanks, Derin.